Pannala siege and the escape. Shivaji Raje rapidly captured Kolhapur and other territories soon after killing Afzal Khan. The attack by Rustam Zaman was repulsed as well. Hence, the Adil Shah assembled a new army in 3 months and put it under the command of Siddhi Johar. Siddhi Johar was an African slave of a Bijapuri noble named Malik Abdur Wahaha. After the death of this noble, Siddhi Johar proclaimed himself as the master of Kurnool and was independent of Bijapur. Kurnool is based 260 km southeast of Bijapur. His past crimes were disregarded and he was given the title of Salabat Khan by the Adil Shah when he decided to march against Shivaji Maharaj. The army under him comprised of 35 to 40,000 infantry and 16 to 20,000 cavalry. The Adil Shah also brought in the Maratha Sardars like Vitoji Aibatrao of Gunjanmawar, Gondaji Pasalkar of Mooskore and Kedarji Khopde to fight under the Siddhi Johar by granting them villages and lands in return of their support. Shivaji Raje had put up a siege on the fort of Miraj in February 1660 and Siddhi Johar marched in with a huge army. Raje had no choice but to retreat. He chose the Pannala fort safety and reached there by 2nd March 1660, and soon after Siddhi Johar put up a siege to Pannala fort with a strong army from all sides. Shivaji had anticipated the siege, still chose the Pannala as this helped keeping the huge Adil Shahi army in south away from Swarajya. Pannala had ample of food and ammunition on board, which made surviving the siege very easy. Also, Raje knew the monsoon would start in a couple of months, which would mellow down the siege. Aurangzeb was now the emperor and started to focus on his expansion in south. Prince Muazzam was replaced by Shaista Khan as the Subedar of Deccan and was ordered to attack the Marathas. Shiv Bharat states that Adil Shah had invited the Mughals to fight against Shivaji Maharaj at Pannala. Shaista Khan, named as Mirza Abu Talib, born on 22nd November 1605, was a Persian by birth and was a brother of Aurangzeb's mother Mumtaz Mahal. The 55-year-old veteran of several campaigns was given an army of 77,000 cavalry. His army had well-known 29 Muslim and 39 Hindu Sardars. Of the Hindus, 17 were Rajput and 22 were Marathas. Shaista Khan started from Aurangabad on 28 January 1660 and after crossing the Bhima river, which serves as the border of the Mughal province, reached Sonwadi on 3rd March 1660. Lakham Sawant, the Sardesai of the Kudal province, saw that Shivaji Raje and his men were tangled in war against the Mughals and the Adil Shah, and he decided to claim the Kudal province. He succeeded after a failed attempt. The coastline from Dabur to Kudal was now lost to the Adil Shah within 2 months of capturing it. Khan started his move from Sonwadi and took a roundabout to Pune. First, he went south to Supe and then to Baramati. From Baramati, Khan's army moved west to Hor and then Shirwar. Then they moved up to Shivapur. Again moved east to take Garade, Saswad and Rajewadi. At each post, a detachment of 4 to 5,000 men were left to guard the post from the short and the swift attacks of the Marathas. The Maratha army deployed in guerrilla warfare or the Ganimi Kawa to harass the huge army of the Shaista Khan. At each stage of this journey, a small force of Maoists would make a swift attack on the enemy. The main focus would be to kill as many men as possible and damage the heavy artillery with minimum loss on their own side. Khan destroyed towns and villages on his way, razed houses of eminent families, cut down trees in the garden and destroyed temples. All this to provoke the Marathas for an open war against his huge army. However, the Marathas with their king stuck under the siege of Pannala continued the Ganimi Kawa. At Rajewadi, Khan received a news that the Marathas had set fire to all the grains and fodder and had removed traces of habitation around Pune and Chakan. The Khan understood the task at hand was daunting and also knew the monsoon won't be easy on his army, and hence on 7th May 1660, Shaista Khan arrived at the top of the Deccan Plateau and camped at the Lal Mahal. When Siddhi Johar was starting his siege on Pannala, Raje sent Netaji Palkar to attack Bijapur as a distraction from the siege. This party reached overnight and burned down Shahapur, which is only 20 kilometers from Bijapur. This left the Bijapur court in terrors. Adil Shah sent his 5,000 bodyguards, the last set of army left with him, to fight with Netaji. Siddhi Johar too sent reinforcement as soon as he learnt of the attack, and Netaji had to retreat. Netaji and Siddhi Hilal reached Rajgarh. This attack happened in March 1660. As per Shiv Bharat, Jijamata was furious when Netaji returned, leaving his king alone, and resolved to herself attack and break the siege from the outside. Netaji calmed her down. He made multiple attempts which failed to break the siege. In one of the attempts, Siddhi Yahya, son of Siddhi Hilal, was arrested by Siddhi Johar's men. This should be around June 1660. Henry Remington, the chief of the English trading station at Rajapur, saw the siege at Pannala as an excellent opportunity to sell his mortar and shells. A correspondence began between him and Rustam-e-Zaman first. Then Siddhi Johar sent his men with a request for a demonstration of his mortar and shells at Pannala. Henry Remington left from Rajapur factory with 1 mortar and 50 shells on 2nd April 1660. He was accompanied by 2 gunners named as Philip Gifford and William Mingham, and an Hindu broker named as Velji. Couple of others joined a month later with more ammunitions, and they stayed there till October. This act of Remington was going to have a far-reaching effect on the relationship of the Marathas and the British. The Pannala fort is placed on a mountain mass with thick vegetation. At the summit, it has a perimeter of 7 kilometers and definitely much more at the base. The siege was therefore a chain of outposts at the base of the mountain. The cannon blows from the top also decided the distance of the siege from the fort. Shivaji Raje had high hopes that Siddhi Johar and his army would wear out in the heavy monsoon, and he would leave without much efforts. The rain started, but the seasoned attacker Siddhi Johar was ready for it. He heard rumors that the supplies on the fort were depleting fast, and his hopes went high. And the sight of the English flag on the ground increased the worries for Shivaji Raje. Finally, Raje decided to make his move. On the moonless night of 13 July 1660, Raje sneaked out of the fort. Heavy torrents of rain was one more reason to pick this day. He was carried in a palkeen, accompanied by 600 infantry. The party quietly slipped through the siege. Raje knew the success of the mission depended on 2 important things. One, the unwavering devotion of these foot soldiers, and their intimate knowledge of the hill paths. The target was to reach the safety of Vishalgarh. The distance of 64 kilometers from Pannala to Vishalgarh was covered on foot in 21 hours. Raje reached the safety of Vishalgarh. The heroic stories of Shiva Kashid and Baji Prabhu Deshpande, Siddhi Johar's reaction to the escape, his fate after that, and the revenge against the English would be covered in the next video of Chronicles. Do watch. Jai Bhavani, Jai Shivaji.